My name is Lurking Lately. I'm a big fan of paradox type games. I'm kind of doing these streams and these series because uh, there aren't a lot of very good current guides for absolute beginners. There's plenty of guides and strategies for people who understand how to play the game, but there's not that many for people who have heard about it, but they find it just kind of a little bit overwhelming. And CK2 is actually Crusader Kings 2, also known as CK2, is actually a great example of that because it's overwhelming. Oh yeah, no, Jack Moko, when I first started, played for a little bit and I just got overwhelmed and frustrated and stopped, which is a shame because it's really got a lot of flavor to it. It's a lot like of a riskier game, like whereas in EU4 you can lose a couple wars and maybe still survive. This game has kind of different conditions for losing. And basically, the only way to lose this game is to not have an heir of your dynasty and not hold at least, well, a barony technically, but I would say a county. If you don't have any counties left, you're in trouble. So let's begin. CK2 is different than your usual strategy game in that it's an RPG slash strategy hybrid. And so what that means is, it kind of takes from both realms and it actually combines it together very well. One of the problems that new players have is they assume it's like any other strategy game where you play a nation and the job of you is to, expand the nation and win the game. There's no real win condition again for this game, although there is like a point system and you want to have your family be as prestigious as possible. But again, it's kind of just about taking a random family or character and then seeing what you can do with it in the Middle Ages. And as before with the my EU4 guide, there's a lot of DLC. Although I believe that the DLC is varied enough that it provides enough changes that I think most of them are worth it. Obviously, don't buy the graphics stuff, don't buy the music stuff, and wait for a Steam sale. And since this is an older game, you can usually get a pretty good deal on a Steam sale. With that, let's begin. Now, if we were to do like an absolute beginner's spot that you want to do, it would probably be in the High Middle Ages, and you would do like a custom game setup, and you would play as one of these Irish counts. Now, like when you're setting up a game, right? This is Shadow World. This is if you want like to, so Shadow World is like everything's kind of like there's no big empires. Everything's like broken up. Randomized World is everything's completely random. I don't really play with either of those. I like the historical starts. So when you're choosing a custom game, right, you can click this is terrain, which is not useful at all. Then there's the realms, and that shows you every independent realm. So you've got England, and you've got this little, Lagan county. This means there's no one above the guy who owns this. Then you can also search by counts. So you can choose, a count that's independent or a count that's within, a kingdom. Then there's duke level. Dukes are higher than counts. And again, these show all the dukes you can play. Again, independent dukes, or also known as petty kings, or dukes within a kingdom. Then there's the king level. There's not many of those, but you can play as one of them. And then there's also one level higher, which is emperor, but I don't see that that's an option to search for. I guess if you were to go to independent, then you could just click on independent nations, and then you'll have your option of being the head of Byzantium or whatever. Now, if you're doing an absolute beginner's guide and you want like something that's not overwhelming and it starts off slow and you'll kind of learn as you grow, a really good option is this guy, Earl Mercad of Dublin. He's a 2-county count. Okay, the duchy itself here, so he'll have like if he creates the duchy, he'll have like a casus belli on his neighbor, and his dad is right here, and I believe that he is his dad's heir. So when his dad kicks the bucket, he gets this piece of land too. The problem with this is, and it's also mostly safe because if you look on the religion tab, the vast majority of the Scandinavian tribes have been converted to Catholicism. So there's really not that many Viking raiders coming over anymore, and they're going to disappear soon. So it's kind of safe here. You can do your thing, become King of Ireland eventually, and then you can kind of invade into Scotland and eventually challenge England. And it's a fun game, but it's kind of slow, and so I don't recommend it for new players only because you're going to spend a lot of time sitting around waiting for claims and that kind of thing. And since it's random and it's based on the skill of your advisors and it's luck-based, it can be kind of boring. So what we're going to do is we're going to go, and although I really want to do like a really fun pagan run, you know, as maybe one of these, you know, Norse dukes, we're going to do a beginner's guide. So it's going to be a new game, and we're going to play as William the Bastard, who later became known as William the Conqueror, okay? So when you start the game, you'll have a whole bunch of, like, options, okay? And again, this can all be overwhelming because you don't know what they do. I mostly leave them alone, but there are some things that make your game easier. Shattered Retreat off is easier. So you know how in EU4 when you defeat an army, they'll just start fleeing, you know, from one province all the way kind of like across to their capital or far away so they can regrow. With Shattered Retreat off means is that when an army is defeated, they'll retreat to the next, you know, province over, and you can just keep, you know, kind of, you can finish them off rather than having them ping pong all over the place. So this makes the game easier. Army movement lock on, that makes the game easier as well, because, you know, without the army lock, you know, the army movement lock feature, you know, you can spend all day kind of just waiting for them to move, and then they'll suddenly change their mind on the last day, and that's super annoying. And then the defensive pact's off again. This makes the game much easier if you're going around conquering stuff. You don't have to really worry about aggressive expansion. You see, in EU4 they needed aggressive expansion as a mechanic because that's what keeps you from blobbing too big. Okay, so you need kind of these defensive coalitions. In this game, there's other limiting factors to your blobbing, so this is just making it extra hard. And then the last thing I would also do, and I'd leave everything else the same, but the last thing I would do is go to Way of Life, AI Seduction, and turn it off. If it's on, so many of your vassals pick Seduction, and most of them try to sleep with your wife, and then you end up with a bunch of kids that aren't your own, and you have to keep imprisoning and beheading your wife, and it just gets out of hand. So I turn off AI Seduction. Now, your wife can still have affairs, but it's a lot more reasonable. You know, like, I'm talking like, you know, your wife has 100 opinion of you, the highest it can be, you're both in love, and still, you know, all these other dudes are just plowing her, and it's just not a good look. So, again, you have the option of, you know, a save and a load or an Iron Man. I would just say go Iron Man. Less so than like with EU4, but again, it prevents you from kind of gaming the system and whatnot and reloading whenever something doesn't go your way. And so it's kind of a lot more fun. So we're going to pick that. And we're going to hit start game. And I'll just delete this Iron Man. And I'll delete this Iron Man. And we'll do the Iron Man Normandy run. Okay, so when you start out, it kind of gives you a summary of your nation, and then it gives you, like, you know, what the effects are. We're going to kind of talk about it so we don't have to really read all this text off. But if you're starting off, it's good kind of to read to know the rules of your realm, so to speak. Now, the great thing about William the Conqueror is that he starts off with, like, a papal-sanctioned invasion of England. So he has a bunch of event troops, and he already starts off at war with England. England is also, historically, the House Godwinson, they, you know, there was a kind of some kind of a problem with succession, and so, you know, William the Bastard had a claim, and also Harold Hardrad of Norway, he had a claim as well. So this poor guy is fighting two invasion armies, and that's just not a good look. But we start off at war immediately, so it's fun, so we can... But again, as per usual, before we start all that off, I'm going to spend way too long just talking about the interface and what you see. Again, bear with me. This is kind of the reference episode. This is for absolute beginners. But let's begin. So, you know, in EU4 you had your nation flag. Here you have your actual, like, player character, okay? Again, this is about families, it's not about nations. So we're playing as Duke William II, the Bastard of Normandy. He's got a wife, Duchess Mathilde. He's got 3 sons. He's got 3 daughters. He's 39 years old. Remember, this is the Middle Ages, so he's got maybe another 20 years in him. 20, 30 years if he's lucky. And he can die immediately in battle if he's not lucky. So you're looking at this whole screen. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. And actually, if you can believe it, it's much better organized than it used to be. So let's look at this. So first of all, up here is William the Bastard's liege, who is King Philippe of France. Okay, this will show you your opinion of the king and the king's opinion of you. Okay, now if you ever have someone above you, you want this number as high as possible, because otherwise the king can cause you a lot of trouble. He can take your land away. He can try to imprison you. All sorts of bad stuff. So you want to kiss your liege's butt while you plot against him. Luckily, in our case, soon we are going to be kings of England, hopefully. And with that, we will be our own king. He won't, since we're the equal of King Philippe, we're gonna own all of England, and this will be independent and a part of our realm as well. It's going to cause some future problems with French relations, and kind of be the future reason for the 100 Years' War, but that's for future descendants to worry about, not us. Down here is going to be your heir, okay? For us, it's our son, Count Robert of Maine. Already our son's, he's only 12 years old, but he's been given, 2 counties here, and you can see him kind of highlighted on the screen down there. It'll give you, and then, well, we'll talk about it, because it's kind of the same screen for everybody. It's got your little house flag, okay? Up here is your ambition, your current ambition, and this is your current focus, okay? Whenever you start the game, you get to choose it. So you get a bunch of options here. You can create a treasury, you can make a friend, become exalted among men, become king of, X, so in this case, king of France, acquire a title, become a counselor, groom heir. And it'll tell you all the conditions for success and what the effects are. So, if we were to have a quality 2 artifact in our treasury, we'd gain 1 stewardship. If we made a friend, we'd gain 1 diplomacy, and some general diplomacy for the time being. If we become exalted among men, 1 diplomacy, 100 prestige. Just to make things simple, we're going to choose exalted among men. Well, okay, so we'll hold off on this. Then you've got to choose your focus. You can change your focus every 5 years, and you have all these different options. Now, they all kind of have their set events, and some of them I'm going to go into and talk about why I choose them. But for now, we're at war, so I'm going to choose a war focus. That's going to increase your martial skill by 3. We're already at 21, so that's pretty great, and 3 is even better. It also increases your personal combat skill. So we're going to select martial focus, and then once the war is over, we're going to switch out of it. Assuming it's not done in 5 years. Here's a family tree. I never really even look at it. And then here's a realm tree. We're going to go into the realm tree after we conquer England. Okay? Here's your personal demands. What you see here is 3 out of 5. That means we can control up to 5 individual kind of units, right? So, for instance, if you look down here, we're the Duke of Normandy, and that's highlighted. We're the Count of Rouen, and that's right here, okay? And then we also have the Baronies of Argentan and Lillebonne, okay? Now, if we were to click here, you'll see here, this is the capital of Rouen, so we own it, okay? And then here's Lillebonne, we own that as well. And you'll also see that it's got, our little family flag here and our little family flag here, so you know it's ours, okay? And so the demands, if we were to, it's how many kind of these building units you own, okay? And, you're kind of restricted into what you can control. For Christians, you can control castles and castles only. If you're playing like a feudal lord, or you can, if you're playing a mayor or something like that, like a trading company, you can only own cities. And then if, a church for church people, but you never really play as a religious group. So that's kind of off limits. Now, you can own and control them, but you're going to get a penalty for owning and controlling something that's not a castle, as, a Christian feudal lord. Now, demands is actually very important because you want to be, to your max limit for demands, because that means that you can raise, more troops, and you also want, in general, all of your demands units, so to speak, you want them to be, county capitals. You don't really want baronies. I mean, baronies are good if, you have no other option. They're good to have. But if you're the count of a county, then all of these guys under you, they're your subjects, okay? They're barons, they're mayors, they're bishops, and they will, they're your vassals. So when you go to war, you can raise their levies to join yours, okay? And they rarely, I don't think I've ever seen them actually rebel against any of their lords because, in relation to their lord, they're just too weak to even think about it. So you want to have kind of your max demands at the top level here, if that makes any sense. We only have 3 out of 5. That's because we gave 2 counties to our son. I don't know why. I guess that's historically what he did. That's a bad idea. Don't land your sons until they're of age. And then when they are of age, so that's 16 years old, I believe, it's 15 or 16, it'll give you a notification. When you land your sons, don't give them your prime land. Give them some land that was just newly conquered. It'll give them some good practice, they'll gain some prestige, yada, 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 but it'll avoid them, it'll avoid weakening your power and maybe enticing them to maybe rebel against you or cause mischief. So don't land your sons until you absolutely have to, and when you do, think about it long and hard. So that's demands. A vassal limit, 4 out of 25. This came with, I believe, the Conclave DLC. At first I hated it. A lot of people still hate it. It's basically the limit of, let's say you were the king of, let's say I was the king of France right now, okay? I have a vassal limit of 25, okay? What that would mean is that, I could have 25, feudal lords directly underneath me. So I could have 25 counts, or I could have, which each control 1 county, right? Or I could have 25 dukes who beneath them control other counts, okay? And, you can raise that limit with your diplomacy skill. You can raise it with your government rank. So, empires can have more vassals than kingdoms. They can have more vassals than dukes, and so on and so forth. And eventually, you're going to kind of reach this upper limit where you're going to have to start creating viceroys, or you're going to have to create vassal kings if you want to keep expanding your realm. But we're far away from that. But important thing to know is you don't want to go over your demands limit, and you don't really want to go over your vassal limit. I mean, you can, and it's okay if you're 1 or 2 over, but each one carries with it a penalty to the amount of income. So if you go over your demands limit, you'll get a penalty to your income, and you'll get a penalty to the amount of troops you can personally raise. If you go over your vassal limit, you'll start getting penalties to the money that's kicked up to you, and you'll also get a penalty to the amount of your vassal's troops you can raise. And that can be disastrous because, let's say you're way over your vassal limit and someone attacks, you think, oh, that's no problem, and then you go and you look to raise their armies and you realize they're only giving you a quarter of what they should be giving you. So that's not good. Here is your troop limit here, so to speak, and it'll give you a breakdown. Again, Paradox games are great with giving you breakdowns if you just hover there. So you'll see here, I have personally in control right now, I have 15,344 troops. I've got 4,000 or so. So I have some available from my demands, some from vassals, and then I've got 10,000 event spawn. That's because historically the Pope gave us sanction to invade England, and these are all kind of adventurers and patriots and whatnot that came to join us. So when you're going to declare war on someone, it's good to kind of click on their face and then look at what their max limit is for armies. Okay. And then down here we've got wealth, and then we've got 998.56, which is fantastic. This means that even if things go south in this war, we'll be able to hire some mercenary armies and keep them working for us for a while before we run out of money. Then we've got prestige, which is 30. The more prestige you have, the better, kind of for your score for your family, but also the more that other people will respect you up to a certain point. And then you've got piety. And piety is how much religious leaders will like you, and religiously inclined people will like you. These are so in EU4 you had your monarch points. Here your 3 currencies are money, prestige, and piety, and you can spend all of them to do various things. So you want all these numbers as high as possible if you can, and you'll also see it's up here. So then under that, what do we have here? Treasury. Treasury is where you keep all your artifacts. We'll talk about that when we get to it. Then there's bloodlines. We'll talk about that when we get to it. There's great works. These are kind of like with kind of the latest round of DLC. You can build great libraries and whatnot that in your areas, and that's kind of for later in the game. There's this little button here that says leading armies. Okay, now if it's blue, it means you can lead armies and fight in an army. If it's red, it means you can't, so you're not going to be involved in any of the fighting. So if you've got a king with high martial, you've got some heirs, so your dynasty doesn't die out if you die. It's a good idea to be leading troops if you're skilled enough, or at least fighting, because you'll get some nice events. If not, if you're terrible at fighting, if you don't have an heir, then I would recommend just clicking this button and you will no longer be able to fight. So then this last one is like a kill count. It's important for certain bloodlines, but otherwise it's just there for you to look at and ooh and ah. These are the stats of your ruler. Okay, you've got diplomacy, you've got martial, stewardship, intrigue, and learning. Okay, diplomacy is obviously diplomacy. The higher your diplomacy, the more people are going to like you, A, and B, the higher your limit is going to be for the amount of vassals you can have. Okay, now you'll see here I've got a number, and then I've got a number in parentheses. This is my personal diplomacy ability, and this is my state diplomacy. So you see here I've got a base of 10, but here I've got the base of 10 plus half of my wife's diplomacy, plus a 9 from the skill of my counselor. Okay, so again, I've got 21 personal martial skill, which is pretty awesome. But then I've also got half of my wife's martial skill and the skill of my counselor, and so on and so forth. So diplomacy is how much people like you and how many vassals you can have. Martial is how well you can fight. So this will affect your skill in battle. It will also affect how many troops you can raise from your levy. So you may notice that, like with your old king, right? Like he used to be able to raise a lot more troops from his demons, as opposed to your new heir who's terrible at martial. Then you've got stewardship. This is how well you can kind of administer your lands. This affects how large your personal demons can be, and it also has other positive effects, like if you conquer an area with a different culture, you have a better chance of converting their culture to your culture with a high stewardship. You're better at kind of squeezing money out of your personal demons. So it's good to have a higher stewardship. I mean, it's good to have a high everything. Then you've got your intrigue. Your intrigue is basically how good you are at plotting and secretive stuff. So if you want to murder your way through this game, you want a high intrigue. And then you've got learning. Learning, a lot of people make the mistake of saying it's a dumb stat. Now, unfortunately, our guys doesn't have very high learning, but learning actually has some pretty interesting effects. And that is we'll talk about it in technology. Finally, there's your personal combat skill, and it'll tell you, the higher the number, the better. It's how likely you are to die when you face some guy. So if you're ever challenged to a duel, before you accept or decline, take a look at what his personal combat skill is. And if it's significantly lower than yours, absolutely take it, because you're probably not going to get murdered. But if it's like way higher than yours, you probably don't want to do that, because you'll probably get murdered yourself. Alright, so here are all of our titles. Again, we're the Duke of Normandy, Count of Rouen, and the Baron of these two castles here. It'll list, this is where your personal demance is, and then here are your claims, okay? So we've got a strong claim on the entire Kingdom of England. That's what we pressed with the Pope's help. And so when you fabricate claims, or if you have a reason for a claim, it'll be here. Right here is kind of your current diplomatic status. This will show you who you're at war with, who you're hostile with, and who you have like a truce with and stuff like that. Now, we're at war with King Harold of England, and we're hostile towards Harold Hadrad of Norway, and that's because we're both fighting for the English crown. So if we meet with either the Norwegian army or the English army, there's going to be a fight. Here's a list of your family. You've got a list of your parents and grandparents. That's not that important. Then you've got a list of your children. That's very important. And you can actually just click on them, and you'll be able to see their stats and all their stats and traits and that kind of thing. And then if you ever just want to get back to yourself, click up here. Now, one thing I skipped over here was your traits. Okay, so first you have your education trait. There's kind of 3 ranks of each education trait, and it's based on what you were focused on learning on as a child. Our guy is actually like the best martial trait, brilliant strategist. He's also got Holy Warrior, so he does more damage against religious enemies. This is kind of a lifestyle thing. He's a legitimized bastard, so he's got a -1 diplomacy with everybody. He's ambitious, which is a great trait to have for yourself, a terrible trait for anyone else to have. You get a bunch of bonuses to all your stats as ambitious, a +2 to, I believe, everything. Unfortunately, if someone below you is ambitious, they're more likely to plot against you or try to murder you. We've got diligent. That's another great trait. That's great for anybody, really, in your kingdom. It gives you +1 to basically all your stats. We got proud. It's considered a negative trait. You see, these are like the 7 virtues are all green, and the 7 sins are all red. But as the sins go, this is actually a pretty good one. The Pope will like you less. Oh yeah, no problem, man. I hope you enjoy it. Hope you can slog through the EU4 videos, and I hope you check this game out. It's a lot of fun. Have a wonderful weekend, man. I hope to see you around. So proud, in terms of, a negative trait, it's not that bad. It just gives you monthly prestige, and it means your religious head will like you less. Cynical, and then there's other ones too, like cynical. You see, it gives a +2 to intrigue, but it reduces piety. Again, that's not a very bad one to have. Brave is a good one. It gives you martial strength. However, you're more likely to die in combat, so that's not great. And so on and so forth. So these are all your traits. You can gain traits over the course of your life, and you can lose traits over the course of your life. And it's very frustrating because there's some ones you don't want to lose, like ambitious, or patient or diligent, and you'll just lose them, and then sometimes you'll get bad traits. So it's, there's things you can do to mitigate it, but mostly you just let it ride and you hope for the best. All right, so that's the entire character screen. We'll go into this more in detail later. Then you've got your, first kind of here, you got your council. So these are all the guys that kind of work in your government, and you can assign them to do stuff, okay? So they all start kind of on the default here, and then you can choose to, change what they're doing and put them elsewhere and whatnot. So right now, our guy is performing statecraft. He'll, kind of randomly improve relations as much as he can with, just random people in your realm, outside your realm, that kind of thing. It's good to do if you don't have anything particular you want him to do. Then you've got improved diplomatic relations. This is important if you've got like someone above you, like a king or a duke. You want him to like you as much, so send him to improve relations with your liege. Or what you can also do is if you're the liege and you have a vassal who's kind of rebellious, or he doesn't like you that much, send him to improve relations. Maybe that guy will like you more, and he'll be less likely to plot against you. You've got fabricate claims. If you don't have like casus belli, is kind of different here. In EU4, it's a good idea to have one. Otherwise, you suffer war exhaustion and stability losses and extra aggressive expansion. Here, you absolutely need a casus belli to attack. Now, if you're standing, if you're next to someone who's of a different religion than you, then you have some standard ones like holy war and whatnot, and you don't have to worry about it. But if you're surrounded by people of the same religion, and you can't find a good reason to fight them, you might have to fabricate a claim. Fabricating claims, it's based on the skill of your counselor, how likely it is to happen each kind of day. So obviously the better they are at being a chancellor, at diplomacy skill, the more likely you'll be able to fabricate a claim. And you'll also have to pay a bunch of money to fabricate the claim. So if you're out fabricating claims, you want to have a bunch of money sitting in your treasury. I want to say like you want to have like around 600 gold sitting in your treasury just in case you fabricate something. Now, with fabricating claims, if you're fabricating like here, then you may just get the county claim. If you fabricate on a duke, you may get lucky and get a claim on the entire duchy. So that's something to consider. And then there's So Descent. That's, I guess you can use it to hamstring other people with their vassals, their relations. You've also got this appoint button here. Now, you can appoint a guy who has more skill than your current guy. It'll piss off your current guy, but it'll make the guy who you appointed happier. And, if you're in a position to do that and the guy's like got much better skill, it may be a good idea to do it. The other thing to consider when you're appointing your counselor is that powerful vassals within your realm, for instance, for us, a powerful vassal is Count Robert of Mortain. They'll expect to get a seat on the council. And if they don't get a seat on the council, they're going to dislike you, they're more likely to plot against you. So sometimes you have to say, oh, well, this guy may not be the best at his job, but he's important enough that I have to give him a prestigious job. So it's kind of a balancing act. You can also choose whether or not you want him to fight in armies. For instance, let's say you've got an amazing chancellor, right? And you want him to be chancellor for a long time. You don't want him to die senselessly in a battle. You can forbid him from fighting. Also, if you sometimes have them doing certain jobs, they won't be able to join the fight. And that kind of goes on the same for all of these guys. So, with your marshal, you can organize an army. This, reduces, retinue and horde maintenance, and it has some other possible events. We don't actually have any type of retinue, so we're going to switch out of that. There's suppress revolts. You can lower the chance of revolt, and I've never seen much use in that. I mean, people are going to revolt against you, and it's not really, it doesn't really stop characters or your subjects from revolting. It's more to stop random peasant revolts and religious revolts within your realm. The more important thing is it increases the arrest chance. So if you want to ever have a good reason to arrest somebody, you might want to send your marshal in to suppress revolts. Then there's trained troops. This kind of increases the size of your levies and increases the reinforcement rate. That's really good. And then there's research military tech, which can spread the tech from your capital to your surrounding duchy. And so since we're in the middle of a war, and we're not going to be using this as our capital for very long, I'm going to say train troops in our capital here. Okay. Hopefully they'll regen faster and they'll be bigger. Next thing we've got is our steward. He can administer the realm. Right here, you kind of see all the stuff it says. You can increase culture conversion chance. You can get possible prosperity, but then you could also get kind of like penalties to your realm. It's kind of a general thing if you don't know what to do with them. Then you can collect taxes. It increases your local tax income. You can oversee construction. It makes, it cuts down on build time. It has some situations where you might make things cheaper, some nice events. So if you're going to be building a lot, you might want to consider this. Then there's research economy tech, which again, it'll spread the technology level from your capital to your surrounding duchy. In general, you want to be collecting as much money as possible, so we're going to put him in the capital to collect taxes. Then we've got our spy master, and he's kind of just he's right now he's scheming. This is actually a good thing to leave your spy master doing. He'll basically keep an eye out for anyone who's making any plots of any kind, not even against you. And so what'll happen is, if you're lucky, it'll uncover a plot against you. Maybe someone wants to kill you. Maybe someone wants to steal your title. Or, maybe there's a vassal you don't like or whose land you want. And it turns out he wants to kill someone completely else randomly. If you discover that through your spy master, then you have a good reason to arrest him. And so it's a good way to manage your vassals. There's sabotage province. Again, other people who maybe have more skill can explain the utility of that. I haven't found it that useful. Alright, so you ever want to murder someone or fabricate a claim on a title or something like that, and you don't have, enough points, and you got a good spy, send them to build a spy network in the province of the person you're trying to murder, or whose land you're trying to make a claim on, or something like that. This is kind of for internal claims, by the way. Then you've got study technology. That's actually also really useful for a couple of reasons. One, if you're behind on tech, you can send them to someplace with better. If you're behind on tech in your capital, you can send them someplace to research tech, and there's a chance he'll steal a little bit of that technology, every single day. And that's if you have a really good spy. But another thing to consider, and this is a risky proposition. One thing, you always want your spy master to like you. If he likes you, he's less likely to plot against you. If he's less likely to plot against you, you're much less likely to be murdered. The flip side, though, is what if you have a vassal and he's got some land you want. He doesn't have any kids, and he's terrible at espionage. It may not be a bad idea to send him to spy in, let's say, Byzantium, and then if he gets caught by the Byzantine ruler, he can be he'll be imprisoned, and he can be executed, or he could be castrated and released. In which case, maybe that land will revert to you. It is riskier if it's someone who doesn't like you, because they can always plot against you. So you want to. Oh, a disease province works as well. Correct. Yeah, and that's actually for any counselor. You want to get rid of someone, and you see the measles, plop them down. We'll see what happens. Thanks for chiming in, by the way. And then you've got your court chaplain, and his options are to hunt apostates. I suppose it's useful because sometimes you'll find a vassal, and it'll give you an excuse to imprison him or to burn him at the stake. Also, I believe it helps you catch Satanists, and so that's always a good thing. You don't want Satanists causing trouble unless you're a Satanist yourself. He can proselytize. That's actually what you're going to be using him for a majority of stuff if you're conquering different religion lands. You basically plop him down to where the religion is different. Like here in these Muslim lands, and he'll slowly try to convert it. And then there's research cultural tech. That spreads the cultural technology of your capital to your surrounding duchy. And so you see how all of these kind of correspond. So military tech will spread with research military tech. Steward, economy tech will do with your steward, and religious, cultural tech with your religious advisor. There's also a chance that there'll be like a heresy that forms. So, it's something to do, something to consider later on. But if you're conquering other people's, other religions' land that's not your own, you're going to want them proselytizing. And finally, there's improved religious relations. This is actually really good if you have a good court chaplain. You don't have anything to do with them, and you want the Pope to like you more. And that can be useful because some of the actions you're going to take are going to piss off the Pope, and so maybe you can improve relations with them. All right. Then we've got minor titles, okay? Designated regent. So we're going to pick from our list here. What you want for a regent, first of all, is a guy who's not ambitious, not envious, who likes you a lot. So we're going to sort by opinion, okay? And then I like to pick someone who's got kind of like the highest stewardship skill. You can also pick your wife. Your wife will do a pretty good job because she won't try to screw over her own children. But you got to be careful with who you pick as your designated regent, because if you go on a pilgrimage or something like that, and someone who doesn't like you or has other aims than you becomes your designated regent, he can cause some havoc. The reason why I pick high stewardship is because we have a stewardship of 14, right? And so that affects our demance size. Now, if you were to leave for some reason, and then while you're away, your designated regent has a much lower stewardship value than you, then your demance size is going to drop because you're not there personally administering things, and because of that, your troop count's going to drop, and then you have to kind of regrow your troops and whatnot. So, also another thing to consider is when you give any of these titles, so any of these major titles or minor titles, their opinion of you is going to improve. I believe this will improve by 10, I think. Yeah, opinion plus 10. So let's see who likes us a lot. And then so this guy's in our bloodline. The problem is he's not one of my sons, so I don't necessarily Right, yeah, so don't do that. Don't pick the high intrigue guy who you revoked land from. That's a bad idea. Now, the problem is, if it was like my son, sure, I might make him, but this guy isn't my son. So he may have designs on, our ancestral land, so he might do something funny, so he's out. Let's pick this guy here. He's got a high stewardship. He likes us decently. He'll like us more, and I think he's a good guy to pick. You always want a designated regent because if you're away for some reason, or if you become incapacitated because of illness or battle, they're going to run the realm for you. So you want a guy who's loyal and who has high stewardship. Then you've got to recruit a court physician. Basically, all you care about is the highest learning available, and then if there's a trait called renowned physician. The higher their learning, the more likely they are to successfully cure you and your family and your friends, and less likely to possibly castrate you or cut off your leg or pull out an eye. So we're going to pick this guy. These are titles that basically you pay a little bit in salary for, and it gives the person who has it an opinion bonus of you. You can give those out to some of your vassals who may not like you that much in order to improve their opinion of you. You can also give it to your children as soon as they come of age while they wait to maybe succeed you, because it'll get them some extra prestige every single month. So that's a good thing to have. Right now, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to leave it alone, because as soon as we win this war here with England, we're going to be installing a whole bunch of vassals, and they're all going to love us for giving them all this land. So we'll leave that alone until later. Then you've got your commanders here. Basically, and you'll always get alerts, if your commander dies or he's no longer available. All you care about is, well, there's a couple things you care about. The most important thing is their martial skill. The higher their martial skill, the better they are at fighting. And then you look at their traits and see if they've got any kind of military traits that'll help with fighting. So like a siege leader is great and stuff like that. Again, you can, for instance, I've got this guy here who's 14 military strength. And that's better than any of these other commanders, so I might want to replace him. However, if you remember, this guy is also our physician, and I believe he's also our bishop here. So I don't want to kind of put him in harm's way per se. So we'll leave him alone now. But let's actually, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's leave this guy to scheme just in case, and then because we're gonna be moving our capital soon anyways. And then over here for our bishop, we're just going to improve relations, again, because we're going to be moving our capital and whatnot. Let's just improve relations with the Pope here. That's always nice. Okay, so back to minor titles. Sorry about that. So you want to pick the strongest guy available. You can also choose to auto-assign commanders, blah, blah, blah. But I like to personally do it just so I can kind of look it over. Then you've got your council. Your council is, again, these guys right here. But it'll also show you kind of their personality types, okay? And their personality types will affect how they view your actions in terms of if you want to change laws in the land, if you want to go to war, and that kind of thing. So we've got one guy who's a zealot, so if we ever declare war on the Muslims, he's always going to be for it. But if we start kind of dabbling in heresy and stuff like that, he may not like us as much. We've got pragmatists. They're kind of your standard guys. What you really want is a council full of loyalists. That'll be like this green symbol, a green heart. So you want loyalists because they'll do whatever you want. Barring that, a pragmatist or a zealot isn't that bad. You want to avoid malcontents. Malcontents will just disagree with you for the sake of disagreeing with you, and that's just a huge pain in the butt. And then we'll go to the Liege Council, and again, it's the same stuff as before, right? But there's also, this is where you can appoint your advisor. An advisor position is great for a powerful vassal who's not good at anything, okay? So he owns a lot of land, he's powerful, and he wants a position. You can throw him on the advisor. It's even better if he likes you, because then you've got one extra vote your way. But that's that. Alright, so that's tab number 1 here. Let's go to number 2, laws. Okay, this is, I think, what trips up most people, and if you don't really understand it, you're not going to have a good time. So whenever we think of the Middle Ages and the feudal system, we always see the king and his prince and blah 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 blah. But actually, succession systems were actually very varied. So let's talk about succession. First, you've got your gender laws. Okay, you've got agnatic, which means only males can inherit. Our current system, which is agnatic cognatic, which means if there's no eligible males, the oldest female, and I believe the oldest pregnant female will inherit. And then for some cultures, you can have absolute cognatic, which I believe is only like possible in like Basque region here. And that means women can inherit, kind of in the same way that men can. Then you've got your succession laws, and this is where things get kind of strange here. So you've got gavelkind, which is what we have. Okay, what this means is that you've got your primary heir, who gets kind of the most prestigious and highest ranked title, and then after that, well, let's hover over it. After that, your lands will be split, or your remaining lands will be split among the rest of your male sons. It gives you a 30% larger demance, which is great. Another great thing about it is if you're running a large realm, and gavelkind is the law for the land. Even if, let's say, this duke, he has his son marry this duke's daughter, and they manage to form some kind of a union from their offspring. So you have one guy. It won't matter, because if they have the multiple children under gavelkind, it's still going to split up the titles, if that makes any sense. Unfortunately, there's also huge drawbacks in that it fractures your demance. So each time you die and you have multiple heirs, everyone's relative power gets smaller and smaller. There's other problems too, and we're going to talk about it in our situation personally. There's elective gavelkind. That's even worse. It's kind of a tribal thing. It's the same thing as gavelkind, except that all of your powerful vassals can vote on it. There's seniority. Seniority is basically the oldest member of the family. Oldest members of your family go into kind of an election process, and then they decide between themselves. This is kind of good for if you've had your land fragmented between your whole dynasty a lot. It could be useful. I tend to avoid it. You've got primogeniture, which is your classic, first son inherits everything. You've got elective monarchy, which is actually pretty good, assuming you don't have that many titles, but you have like a large land. And what that means is that everyone votes on who the next, king is going to be, or the next leader, whatever it may be. So it's more about making sure that your vassals like you, and they also like the heir. This can be a little more complicated. Then there's also ultimogeniture, which is the youngest son inherits. Ultimogeniture is good too, because you can keep having male sons until you reach one that you like, or maybe you have two that you like and they're kind of in succession, right? And then you can either divorce your wife or murder your wife, or become celibate, and you'll have more control over who your heir will be. The risk is that if you die prematurely, it's going to be a baby on your throne, and that's going to cause problems. So succession is a big part of this game. We're going to try, once we conquer England, we're going to try to switch to primogeniture or ultimogeniture. And in fact, looking at our heirs, I might be inclined to go ultimo, but we'll see from there. Then you've got your realm laws. Now, the crown laws of the Kingdom of France, are kind of supersede. Crown laws supersede like ducal laws and stuff like that. So you can change this. Centralization basically means you'll have a larger demance size at the cost of less vassals. So that's good if you're a smaller, kingdom or whatnot, or you can control more land for yourself. But as your kingdom gets larger and larger, you're going to have to lower centralization just so you can have more vassals, and that's going to lower your personal demance as well. So that's something we consider touching right now. And when you hover over it, before you click on it, you'll see what your council thinks of it. Okay. So right now, if we chose to go for low centralization, right, our vassal limit would go down by 5, so we'd have 4 out of 20 vassals. but our demands would go up by 1, so we could control more land directly, okay? Next is the status of women. Basically, as you get farther and farther in like a cultural tech line, I believe it's, let's take a quick look just so I'm not talking out of my butt. It's tolerance. Then you'll be able to vote to have more rights for your women. That's actually really good. You want, if you think about it this way, right now, you have to give jobs and lands to men and your best men. But if you have a small court, there may be women who are far more qualified, but they can't do it because of gender laws. So you'll see here that it actually doesn't. You'll see here if you hover here, what all of them do. It doesn't it's not like full cognatic, so you can't have there are still limits, but in general it's good to improve the status of women in your realm. Revoke titles. This is very important. Okay, right now it's at none. We want it to allowed. Okay, and the reason being is if someone was to rebel against us or plot against us, sure we could imprison them, and we could even demand a ransom or leave them in prison to rot, but we can't punish them by taking away a title. So that could be a a ducal title. Well, we're a duke, so that's not possible right now, but it could be a title, it could be a county, and it's a good way to deal with malcontents. Once they rebel against you and you put down the rebellion, you revoke a title, blah blah blah. So let's see how so right now it looks like 3 would support it, 2 are undecided, possibly against it. I say we go ahead and we allow the revocation of titles. Now they're going to go debate amongst themselves. They'll come back with an answer. But we already know that 3 guys are for it. There's a total of 5 counselors. So there you go. Then there's administration, okay? Basically, we're in a feudal administration right now. When you get to late administration, it opens up more of these inheritance laws. There's more of them available. So you want to get that done as soon as possible. Get to late just so you can change your inheritance laws, and it's easier to keep your demands from fracturing. And then eventually you want to get to imperial laws, which allow a lot more vassals at the cost of feudal opinion. And that's so you can keep on blobbing outwards. And you do that, you need certain breakpoints in tech, okay? And we'll talk about that later. And then you've got your obligations. You can choose to nudge them based on your technology. If you want nobles to give more troops, you can trade off that way. If you want them to give more taxes, you can trade them that way. Same go for your towns, your burghers, and your churches, your church and your tribals. I don't really mess with this that much. I just never have. I'm sure there's a very good reason to do it. Let's say, you're kind of late in the game and you started really early on, and so you've got this huge retinue, and that's doing most of your fighting, and you don't really even need your vassals anymore. Well, you can, have your nobles pay more cash instead of raising troops, and so they'll raise less troops for you directly, but you'll have more cash to help reinforce and grow your retinue. Your retinue is kind of like your standing, like a proto-standing army, but we'll get into that later. Then there's council laws. Council laws are the powers of your council, okay? So, you can actually, abolish them altogether. It means they can't really, vote on stuff like your local laws. You're an absolute tyrant. They can't vote on stuff like wars or revocations or stuff like that. But it's not a bad idea to empower them. People are going to try to agitate and revolt for this anyways, so just give it to them. Then there's the individual kind of enumerated stuff that the council can vote for, right? So right now, it'll be either ruler checked off or council checked off. So, for instance, right now, if we were to pass that law to be able to revoke titles, then this means that, I have the ultimate decision on whose titles get revoked. They don't get a say in it, okay? And that's actually pretty good because, again, if someone, rebels against us, we want to be able to rightfully take away their title without having to worry about our council saying, no, I don't feel like it. Also grant titles, it's with the ruler as opposed to council. That's also very good. Let's say you conquer a bunch of lands. You want to be able to say, I can keep this all for myself, I can give it all to my son, I can give this all to whoever, and you don't want your council saying, nah, we're against that, okay? Execution, less important. If if the council wants this, or if the council has it, I wouldn't even bother revoking it. The reason is this. When you imprison someone, for whatever reason, you can either, release them for ransom, which the council doesn't get to vote on, or, you can throw them in the oubliette, and they're going to die soon anyways, and they're not going to be able to make babies or anything like that. So I don't care if the council has the right to executions. That's more of like a flavor thing, and if it makes them happy, great, let them have it. War declarations. This is also kind of important. Basically, you don't want to be ready to fight, let's say France, and then have your council say, nah, we don't feel like it. Because then you got to go around and bribe them, and it's a whole rigmarole. So I prefer having the ruler, but, I don't necessarily... This is one I hem and haw on, right? Like, because this is an important council power. But, like, let's say you were placed right next to a bunch of Muslims. Well, it's doubtful, that your council's not going to override you on something like that. So, kind of play around with this one. I like to have control, but it's not something I'm willing to, like, piss everyone off about. Then there's imprisonment. Imprisonment is another one you want your ruler to have. Most likely, if you have a justified reason to imprison someone, your council's not going to override you. However, sometimes you got to be a tyrant, and you gotta watch out for that kind of stuff. So I prefer to have the right to imprison. The ones I really care about are revoke titles, grant titles, and imprisonment. I prefer war declaration. The rest of this stuff, they can have it. So execution and banishment, I can have, they can have it. Banishment's actually pretty useful too. If you can keep it for your ruler, that's a good one to have. When you banish people, sometimes if they have a huge amount of wealth, you confiscate that wealth when they're banished, so that can be a big boon. But again, it's less important than revoking, granting titles, and imprisonment, that kind of stuff. So, just something to consider. You can only change a law for there's a cooldown period after a law has been voted on, and so you gotta kind of time and space this all out. Alright, so that's all the laws. Now you'll see here, you'll see here is like kind of the laws that are within our realm. So we've got our own like Normandy laws, right? But if you click on the Kingdom of France, you'll have the French laws here. And so this is more important when you start becoming an emperor and you have multiple kingdoms, because each kingdom may have their own succession laws. Each kingdom may have their own realm laws. And so it's important to keep them straight, because if you don't, you may end up with, your kingdom title in France being primogeniture, and you think that's fine. What you don't realize is that, the Burgundian crown is Gavelkind, so that went to a different son. So you kind of want to match them all up to your preference, and as much as you can. You can only change succession laws once, and you can only do like changing gender laws means you can't ever change succession laws in the life of a king. Also, changing any kind of succession law, I guess I should call it inheritance so no one gets confused, but changing any kind of inheritance law is going to piss everybody off. So it's something to do when your king is powerful and prestigious enough that people aren't going to rebel, or towards the end of his life, because then you only have to live with that kind of opinion penalty for a while. Alright, so that's with laws. Now technology. Technology is something that's important, but you don't really do much about. So technology in kind of income is based on your, so military technology is based on your martial stat multiplied by plus learning, okay? And then economy is your stewardship plus learning, and then culture is your learning plus diplomacy. And they're all useful, and you'll get an alert when you can kind of advance up. What I will say is, in terms of importance, military organization is probably for a Catholic ruler. It's the most important one, but you kind of want to kind of like make them all even, because as you go up in each rank, it costs a lot more to increase. See, this one's ahead by 80%, and then this one is actually not ahead at all, so it'll cost less to raise siege equipment than melee techniques. So you want to raise military organization. It just helps in general with fights. It helps with fights against pagans. It's a good one to have. I kind of just go up like military, siege, and then the rest of these. And then also based on like what your army is mostly composed of. So, if it's early game, there's not a lot of technology. You're going to mostly be like, light infantry and stuff like that. So you may want to, do this one first. But military, siege, that kind of thing. Here, again, for Christians, you kind of want to keep it all kind of going, but I found that construction is actually a very good one to have because it will lower the cost of constructing buildings in your demands. So that's good to have. Shipbuilding is really good to have. You can build, shipyards in your demands, so you can have more ships. You can move guys around easier, and then all of these are important. Since you're a feudal lord, in terms of all of these other ones, you're going to want castle infrastructure and improved keeps, and you can actually see what you can build with the next round of technology. And then you eventually want to raise up cities and temples and trade practices. In terms of cultural advances, again, they're all useful. I like to rush legalism first, just so I can get to like late feudal administration and start having better succession laws available to change to. And then I like to go majesty until you get to imperial administration, just so you have the option to switch to that, and then kind of each one, one at a time. Tolerance is good because you can do like the marriage laws. There's like a lower, difference of opinion for different culture or religion. A noble is actually very important because all of your vassals are going to be feudal lords, so it's good to have them like you more, and just basically raises opinion. So this will make feudal lords like you more. This will make like burghers like you more. This will make bishops like you more. So I like to rush legalism, then do majesty, and then kind of just go whatever order of preference down here. And so this is why actually like learning is so important, because you see it affects your tech rate gain on all types of tech, regardless. So having a high learning will have you raise up in tech real fast. Then there's the military tab, okay? This looks kind of complicated, but basically it's a feudal system. There's not really standing armies per se. So, before you declare war, you can't have any kind of, levies raised. Then once you do declare war, you can raise your own levies here. You can raise your vassal levies and hold control to avoid raising them where there's hostile armies. That's always a good idea. You can raise your personal boats, and you can raise your vassal boats, okay? And then there's hired, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then when the war is over and everyone's safe in your land, and you're not worried about like enemies in your lands, you can dismiss all of your levies and all of your subject levies. And then there's this whole section for hired. So if we click here, so right now we're on the vassals tab. So this will show you how much we can raise, blah, blah, blah. You can raise them individually from here. So you can say, oh, I want to raise levies from the count of so-and-so, but not my entire realm. That's maybe like if you're dealing with a specific rebellion in the area, that kind of thing. And it also tells you like who's out of manpower, who won't give you any, that kind of thing. Then you've got mercenaries here. Mercenaries you hire for a set amount of gold, and then you pay them monthly wages. And it's very important that you are able to afford to pay them their monthly wages. If you cannot, they will have a casus belli to attack you and take your land, and because they owe you money. Now, the mercenaries are actually really useful. We may hire some, depending on how many men we lose during this war. They can range from really expensive. So, see here, this is a huge army of 4,500 men. So we can hire them, but it'll cost us 450 gold out of our 998, and then it'll cost us 32 gold per turn. If you hover here, you'll see that our monthly balance currently is 0.4, and that's mostly because we've got like all this stuff raised, and we don't have a lot of land. That's going to change. And then as you scroll down, you'll see that you can get progressively smaller and cheaper armies. So eventually you can raise these guys who only have 100 men, 0.9 ducats a month, 0.9 gold, I should say, a month to maintain. So you kind of look for however many men you need. You don't really want to go too high as an overkill because it'll cost you a whole bunch. But you don't want to go too low because you're just going to have to hire more mercenaries. The important thing is make sure you got enough money to pay them. Holy orders, when holy orders are created, you'll have an option to hire them. They don't cost money, they cost piety, and they don't cost maintenance, but they can only fight people who are of another religion than you. So if I was to raise a holy order, I can't use them to fight anybody who's Catholic. I can't use them to fight Muslims. I can't use them to fight Greek Orthodox either, because they're a subset of Christianity. But any heathen, I can use them to fight. Then there's allies in wars. You'll know who your allies in wars are. There's a rally point viewer. I haven't really used the rally points too much. I'm not too familiar with it. If someone does know about it, please chime in chat. Then there's your intrigue tab. This is where you can do a lot of your options, right? And they're not even necessarily sneaky things. You can if you don't have enough men, for the lands you want to distribute, or if you're looking for a warrior or something, you can invite a noble to court, and it'll tell you what the conditions are to be able to click and what it'll do when you click. And so you can do all sorts of stuff. We're gonna talk about this more when it comes time to click, because I'm not gonna read through all the options. But if you're not sure, if the game's asking you or telling you can do something or asking you to do something, you can usually either find it here or by right-clicking on your face. Okay. Then down here, there's my plots. So you can click and choose a plot. And there's a whole bunch of pre-made plots for you. Okay. Like for instance, I can plot to revoke the county of from this guy right here. And so if I click on it, I can choose it and whatnot. You can also choose your own personal plots. Like let's say I don't want to revoke land from him. I want let's say just for some reason I can't kill my son. Let's say I want to kill this guy. I can right click and I can plot to kill. But that's where your plot will be. Now what will happen is as soon as you choose a plot, right, there'll be this little box that says auto invite. Just do it, click it, and it'll show kind of your target, and then it'll say how many people have joined you and that want to do it. It'll tell you the current plot power. Anything under 100 is really not worth it. Anything worse than 90s, don't even bother. And you can increase your plot power by getting more people in. And so if you choose auto invite, everyone who's willing to join you right away will join. But maybe that's not enough plot power. Well, there's things you can do to raise it. You can put your spy network, your spy master in there to build a spy network. You can also go to there'll be a plus button around here, and you'll be able to see who else could possibly join this plot. And then you can sort by let's say plot power, and then you can look at who would be willing to do it, and all it needs is a bribe to make them like you more. They'll have we'll get into that when we start killing people. There's known plots. Those are all the plots your spy master told you about. Prisoners. We're gonna have a bunch of prisoners after this war, so we'll talk about that then. But this is how you interact with your prisoners. And then threats. I believe this is for stuff like Viking raiders or any type of raiders. This is where adventurers who are mounting against you. This is where they'll be listed. We won't get too far into that. There's factions. Okay, so you'll see here there's two different factions because we're kind of in the middle, right? So factions in the Kingdom of France is something we can join. Let's say we said, let's start a faction, and let's say we want to change it to seigneury succession in France, or gavel kind, or we want independence, or we want to put a different person on the throne, or increase council power. We can choose to start a faction, and it kind of works the same way as plots, and then it fires when there's enough power relative to your liege's power. Or you can join a faction. Let's say someone says, hey, I want to put Duke William on the throne. Absolutely, join that plot, right? So you can choose that. And then there's factions within the Duchy of Normandy. These are the ones that affect you. So if someone, one of your counts, says, hey, I want to lower, I want to change this law, I want to increase council authority, that's where it'll be listed right here, okay? Then we've got the religion tab. Religion, I'm not even going to go into the College of Cardinals. It seems complicated. I don't even bother with it. I guess someone who knows more can tell me about it. It's got a list of saints. Again, there's no saints because this game just started, but saints, provide bloodlines and all that kind of stuff, but we'll talk about that later. It'll tell you, a little bit about your religion. It'll tell you modifiers. It'll give you who the current pope is, their opinion of you. If there's a Crusader or a Great Holy War called, it'll be here, or a Jihad. And then it'll down here is vassal bishops. So, well, let's look at. I don't think I can change it here in my realm laws. Okay, so eventually when we become king, we'll be allowed to talk about free investiture and stuff like that. But right now, I'm not too worried about it. One thing to consider about Catholicism is that you can like appoint successors to certain bishoprics and whatnot, and that can be useful if you've got like a bad succession like Gavelkind. Like, I believe your first two sons you can't. Maybe not even your first three, but I think your first two you can't. So like, let's say we want this guy out of the picture. We nominate him for bishop, right? And then as soon as he becomes bishop, assuming he becomes bishop, then he'll be locked out of succession because bishops can't have claims on kind of the rest of the stuff. So we can play around with installing bishops and stuff like that. Then finally there's societies. Okay, it starts off randomly with one picked, but just go to list of all known societies, and then there's all your options. There's the two holy orders, Benedictine and Dominican. They're fairly similar, if I remember correctly. Well, no, they're slightly different. So they got different powers, but they basically want the same thing. They want you to have virtuous traits. They want to get rid of sinful traits. They want you to build churches, go on pilgrimages, that kind of stuff. Now, a lot of people poo-poo these two because they don't really their power is a lot more subtle, okay? And let me explain, okay? So right here at Oblatus, right here for the Benedictines or the Dominicans, you can take a vow of celibacy, you can renounce a vow of celibacy. Now you're thinking, well, how useful is that? Well, I mean, if your succession is Gavelkind and you have a son and you don't want to worry about having more sons that can challenge him, you're still fairly young, right? You can take a vow of celibacy and you won't have any more children, so you don't have to worry about kind of a fractured inheritance. Now there's a risk. What if your son dies? What if he turns out to be terrible? Then you're gonna run into that problem. But it's a way to help control succession before you can change the laws. There's also stuff like the Benedictine order. You can do Benedictine diligence, which just gives you the trait of diligent, which is great. You can convert counties, invite holy aesthetics, that kind of thing. Teach virtues. So it's good. It's more for when you're going to try to juggle a bad succession law, or if you already have kind of a large stable empire and you don't want to mess with it too much, it's not a bad one to choose. Hermetic society is great. Some people say even overpowered. You need a certain base amount of learning, which we don't have, but you can join, and you'll get there's some powerful options. You can brew a potion of eudaimonia. This removes the stress trait, which is super useful. You can make a horoscope for your children, which I believe gives bonuses to their skills, and you can write a magnum opus, which is amazing. When we have a higher learning ruler, we'll talk about it. Then there's the Satanist, Lucifer's Own. A lot of people like these, and there is an appeal to it. You have to join to see what your possible powers are, but you can do stuff like eventually you can kidnap other people, through your society and sacrifice them to Satan, all that kind of stuff. Now, aside from all the cool Satan stuff, I mean, it can honestly be useful. Let's say you are the king of a large realm, but you got some unruly vassals who just maybe they're envious, maybe they're ambitious, maybe they're too powerful. Sending out a bunch of Satanists to kidnap the guy and kill him. I mean, there's a chance it could come back on you, but it's it can be a useful tool. The problem is the more you with this. Okay, so with Benedictine Dominican order, you're more likely to gain traits that are good, like the 7 virtues. With Lucifer's Own, you're more likely to gain bad traits. There's also other stuff too, like the Son of Satan events and all that kind of stuff, but we're not going to get into that. In a large fractured realm, this has its uses. I prefer to stay away from it because I find Hermetic Society just better long term in terms of stacking for your dynasty. And I usually go very deep into Hermetics until I have a bunch of magnum opuses. But they all have their niche uses, and they're all kind of fun in their own way to play. Also, the cool thing is that, like, depending on your culture and your religion, there'll be different orders and they do different things. But that's it for societies. So, alright, so we got through all of these buttons. These are your alerts. Just like in EU4, they have flags that'll warn you of things. So this one's saying, you know, we don't have an ambition picked. This one says we can press claims for some of our vassals. This says our children lack childhood focuses. And this says that, you know, based on, you know, who our children are and what our laws are, this is what's gonna happen, okay? So let's fix the choose an ambition. I'm inclined, actually, to pick... See, the thing is, at a certain point, stuff like become exalted among men and, that kind of thing, you get locked out if you have too much prestige. And we are going to get a bunch of prestige from this war and from giving out land and stuff. Another good, easy one is to make a friend. You'll get 1 diplomacy when you get it, so that's a great a boost. And this one helps you get artifacts, but I'm not really too concerned about that. Careful with becoming a counselor. On the one hand, becoming a counselor, is good, but on the other hand, it puts you within the grasp of your liege. It's much easier for your liege to imprison you and stuff like that, so just be careful. Also, the success isn't that good. It used to raise like the relevant stat by 1, but just to have, I don't think that's a very good one. Groom and heir is useful if you don't have any kids and you need to make babies. It increases your fertility. But I don't find it that useful unless, you're having problems making sons. Acquire a title just gives you a prestige bonus. You're going to be trying to do that anyways. I would say we're not going to become King of France. We're going to become King of England. I would say let's try to become exalted among men, okay? And so you'll see that this alert goes away. So let's deal with this one. Our children lack childhood focuses. Well, let's take a look at our children. So we've got our main heir here. He's a 2-county count. He also has a barony, and he's pretty terrible. His stats aren't that good. He's got a genetic problem with a lisp. He's got some traits that's, this one might turn out okay. This one won't. This one's gonna turn out okay. Then he's envious. He's slothful. So he's got all these negatives. He's wroth. Not good, man. Not good at all. And unfortunately, I mean, we got to deal with him. So what can we do? Well, first we can, and we can't even choose an education focus for him because he's kind of independent. So what can we do? First, let's take a look at his educator. Okay, what are the traits that his educator has? So his educator is envious. He's diligent, just, and temperate, which is good. So this could turn into diligent, and that's good. He's already got envious. I don't like this guy. In the old games, you used to be able to murder your own children. Now you really can't, or maybe it was a mod, but I'm fairly certain you could murder your own kids in the past. They got rid of that, so let's not worry about him. Let's worry about these children here. So this one looks pretty good. He's 11. He's got some okay stats for a kid. He can potentially become diligent. He's curious. He's rowdy, so that could turn brave or brawny. Could also turn dull or uncouth. But these are good stats here. So let's choose his childhood focus. There's stuff like on the CK2 wiki which will tell you what kind of the net results of all of these are. The general rule of thumb is you want thrifty because he can become curious or fussy. Duty is good if your child's already a genius. Then duty is good because geniuses can't get curious. He does have curious. So I'm going to make him do thrift again. These are like stewardship focuses. These are military focuses. These are diplomatic focuses. And these are religious focuses. And they correspond to which traits are going to get bumped up the most. They're also affected by who their educator is. So just taking a look at all these different traits, I'm going to say let's go ahead and let's do thrift. Because we've still got plenty. We're going to have even a higher vassal limit when we become king. I don't think we're going to reach our vassal limit anytime soon. So we might as well have like a high demons limit for this guy. So we're going to choose the focus for him. And then let's go back to ourselves and let's look at this other son. This other son's looking pretty good too. He's only 10. He's got okay stats. He is a homosexual, so it's going to lower fertility, which may not be a bad thing under Gavelkind succession. Vassal opinion is going to go down. That's a problem. But it's only 5, and it's not that bad. He's also got curious as well, and he's affectionate. So let's pick again for him. Let's pick thrift as well. He almost is going to be a diplomat, but let's pick thrift for him as well. I'll be dead honest. I was used to like the older system of education, so now I kind of just do whatever the internet tells me. I'm sure you can find more in-depth guide than this. Then we would also look at is who's this guy's educator, who's his guardian. So I'm educating William. That's good. And let's educate Richard as well. Okay, so I'm educating him as well, and you can see who your well, let's assign guardians too. So I'm going to assign a guardian, and it's going to be me. Okay. And I'm going to assign a guardian for him as well. You right-click on faces to pull up this interaction here. And I'm going to assign myself as well, because I want more control over the growth of these second sons. Now, my thinking is this. I don't like my primary heir. I think he's got bad stats. He's got a genetic problem. I don't like him. I might just grin and bear it, and change it to primogeniture and make deal with a crappy king, and then hopefully marry and educate well enough that we have better children. So that's kind of my planning for right now. But we'll talk about dynasties and breeding programs and all that kind of stuff. This is actually a very amoral game, so before we get too far, I kind of play to try to do as good of a job as possible. I don't really role play that much. Basically, the extent of my role playing is I'm doing what's best for the family, and I'm doing what's best for the dynasty. Some people, they like to look at their character and look at their traits and say, well, how would this guy act? If that's your thing, if you want to play it like more of an RPG than a strategy game, have at it. This game is you can totally do that. If you want to play it as more of a strategy game than an RPG, you can do it that way. Now, the way I'm going to play is more of a strategy than RPG, but again, don't think you have to play a certain way. And that's actually one of the things that make this game so great. You can play it in your own style. Maybe you don't want to conquer the whole world. Maybe you want to just play a family simulator game. You can do a pretty good job with it here. It's no Sims or anything like that, but you can do it. All right. So we've got still an alert for Cecilia. She doesn't have anything. So let's look at Cecilia. So for your daughters, I like to give them, unless they're like your primary heir. I kind of just I'm not too concerned about what to give them. I try to avoid giving them something that will make them have good diplomacy. Although this one's pretty good because they can become content. So I try to avoid diplomacy ones. I also try to avoid anything that'll make them ambitious. And again, if you click on each individual one, you'll see what the possible outcomes are, and then what those traits can turn into. So for this one, I'm just gonna pick faith, and just go with it. So it sounds terrible, but I'm less concerned. As long as I've got sons, I'm less concerned about my daughters and my sons. Daughters are gonna get married away to as is necessary. Daughters are actually a lot more integral if you're playing like a Norse run, because you can make them into shield maidens, you can make them into warriors. In the Christian faith, there's really they're more, unless you don't have a son lined up, they're more about securing alliances or non-aggression treaties and that kind of thing. So Again, I know it's terribly mechanistic. I don't actually support these values in real life, but in this game, this is how it is. So, alright, so we got rid of that alert. We're not going to worry about pressing the claims. We're not going to worry about, title loss succession. Let's talk about the rest of this stuff. So up here, this is kind of your main header. It'll give you your three kind of currencies: money, prestige, and piety. Your demont size, your vassal limit size. I have no idea what the hell this is. I've never really used it. This is your score. Again, I don't really care about that either. An event log will show up here. It usually scrolls by so quickly I don't even bother to look, but it can be useful. This is your outliner. As we get more stuff and lands and wars, it'll kind of fill up, so don't worry about that. And then here are your map modes. Just like EU4, there's a lot of map modes. Thankfully, there's less map modes than EU4. So you got your terrain, which looks nice but isn't that useful. You got your kind of realms. These are all the independent states out there currently. Diplomatic. So if I was to click on, this nation, we can see all the, the opinions and whatnot. Or rather, I'm sorry. Diplomatic is the diplomatic relations with other rulers. You got your religions. Again, this is useful for when you conquer land that is held by those of other faiths. You can keep an eye out, see what you have to convert, kind of plan on that kind of stuff. Also, you'll know if you're next to an opposing like a heathen religion, then you'll have more kind of diplomatic, possibilities with them. Culture map mode. This is useful too. You basically want your realm to all be one culture, and you want it to be, whatever culture you are, preferably. Now, this is a good kind of starting game because eventually, once we take England, it's gonna be this weird mishmash, and English culture will form. And once that happens, we'll have to convert all our lands to English culture. But we'll talk about that later. But basically, you want unified culture. Economy, this will tell you, where the moneymakers are. The brighter the green, the more money is being generated and is stored in that area. Okay, this is more useful for like Norse raiders or people that can raid, but it's useful for us, I guess. Then there's de jure duchies. This will tell you, like, hey, legally, this is what's in this duchy. These are the counties in this duchy. Legally, these are the counties in this duchy, and so on and so forth. This is useful, and we're going to spend some time in it 2 times. Once, when you're distributing land, so you'll know, like, where to put what ruler. We'll talk about distributing lands after the war. And it's also useful if you're doing, like, holy wars, because you'll be able to see the size and which provinces are involved and where you declare war. So that's useful. De jure kingdoms. This is also kind of useful insofar as, like, let's say you just became a new king. You can see what are de jure parts of your kingdom, and you can declare war for them. De jure empires, again, same as de jure kingdoms. It's also kind of says the extent of the laws. So, like, because we're in the de jure kingdom of France, we, currently are under French crown law. Now, eventually we're going to become English. We're going to be the kings of England, but our lands here are still going to be affected by the French laws. So we're still going to get to vote on them, and we're still going to suffer from them over here. Revolt risk, it'll tell you, red, bad. It's more likely that there's going to be a peasant revolt or a religious revolt. Dynasty trees, really not that important. Opinions, this is actually really important. If you click on your specific nation, so to speak, it'll give you all the opinions of everyone around you. Green is good, red is bad. That's also useful for, like, international diplomacy. Direct vassals, we won't get too far into this. We'll talk about this later. Trade zones, we're not really a republic, so we don't really care. Government types, again, seems more like informational than anything else, but it'll show you, what the different government types are. Defensive pacts, we're playing without defensive pacts, so we don't really care about this one. Epidemics, this is going to be very important once diseases break out, but we will deal with that then and there. If you ever need to find a title or a region, you click on this little button right here, and then, if you ever need to find people, and we're going to go more in depth onto this, click here. let's say our guy wanted to get married, or let's say we wanted to get a spouse for our son. In this case, it would be a betrothal. We could click on here and it'll give you a list of like possible candidates, but those are not all the candidates available. I never really understood it, but it's a smaller subset than what you can possibly have. And so if you're ever looking for marriages for family members or for yourself, it's better to search through here. But we're going to go through this after we conquer England. In any case, we just spent a whole bunch of time talking about menus and buttons, and we have not even unclicked yet. So if you are lurking in chat, you must be a glutton for punishment. But I do appreciate you guys that stopped by. I'm going to end this recording right here. I'm going to take a break. And in the next episode, I am going to actually unpause and invade England. And we'll talk about combat and conquests and casus belli and all that kind of stuff. But basically, I wanted this first episode just to be so you are familiar with all of the buttons, all of the major buttons. I will continue to talk about buttons in the future, but this will get you started. So if you're confused, there's a lot. There's a lot of information to take in, more so than like EU4. But once you get the hang of it, I find it's actually like it could even be a simpler game than EU4. But it's all relative. So thanks for listening. Have yourself a wonderful day.